It's 80 AD. You're sitting on a long stone bench near the Colosseum. 10 strangers sit right beside you, shoulder to shoulder. No walls, no doors, no stalls. Just a row of holes cut into cold marble, one after another. You're in the middle of that row. This is the toilet. You use it every single day, whether you like it or not. Modern, you would rather hold it for 6 hours straight. You drive to a gas station 3 towns over first. Rome built the finest sewers on earth. Aqueducts, underground channels, running water day and night. Then Rome used all that genius for one single purpose, a bathroom with zero privacy. And this wasn't some slum's leftover toilet. This was the nice one. The good bathroom, downtown, for everybody. Not one city. Every city Rome ever ran. Now, look to your left. A Roman soldier sits right next to you. Broad shoulders, armor still buckled on. He's not using his sponge stick. He's just watching. Not the whole row. You specifically. Maybe he thinks you're taking too long. Maybe he's simply bored. It doesn't matter why. There is no wall between his eyes and your face. Not at your most exposed moment. The whole row can hear everything too. So what do? Nothing. You sit there. You finish. You stand up and let the next stranger take your seat. It's still warm. Out of every civilization historians call advanced, this is the one. It built genius plumbing. It never once tried to hide you while you used it. So, what did people actually do with absolutely no toilet privacy? Here's what you probably assume. You assume the wealthy Romans found a way out of this. A private toilet at home, sure, maybe. But surely the senator skipped the public bench. Surely the man who owned 3 farms didn't want a soldier watching him relieve himself. Why would he choose that when his money could clearly buy him out of it? That's how we handle it today. Money buys distance. The CEO doesn't share a stall with the mailroom on principle. We build entire office floors around who gets which bathroom and who never has to ask. Privacy is basically a luxury good, and luxury goes to whoever can pay for it. So it's easy to picture Roman latrines as strictly for the poor, the desperate, people with nowhere else to go. A rough workaround for the bottom of society and nothing a rich Roman would ever touch. That assumption is wrong. Archaeologist Anne Koloski-Ostrau spent years mapping these buildings and published the numbers in 2015. The public latrine at Ephesus seated 48 people at once. Timgad's version seated 28. These weren't back alley holes, they were civic monuments built from the same marble as the forum next door. Senators used them, rich merchants used them. Men who owned slaves sat on that bench right beside men who were enslaved. Plenty of Romans didn't even rush through it. They lingered. They talked politics. They traded gossip. The Forica wasn't some shameful last resort reserved for the poor. It was a public square that happened to also be a toilet. And that changes the question we actually need to ask. We don't get to file this under Rome was primitive and simply didn't know better. We have to ask what these specific people chose, on purpose, generation after generation. Here's how it actually worked, mechanically. Rome ran its aqueducts non-stop, day and night, and none of them had a shut-off valve. All that water had to go somewhere. Engineers routed the overflow straight under the latrine bench into a shallow channel that never stopped moving. That channel is why there were no walls. So why not just build the walls anyway and run more pipes to each one? Because Roman engineers thought in terms of flow, not in terms of rooms. We build bathrooms today assuming plumbing should follow privacy. Rome built them assuming plumbing came first and privacy could wait its turn. You can't wall off 20 seats built on top of one continuous flow of water without breaking the whole system. The bench itself was one long slab, holes cut close together. because separate stalls would have meant separate plumbing, and Rome had no interest in that. Down at your feet, a second smaller channel carried a shared cleaning tool called a tersorium, a sponge tied to a stick. You used it. You rinsed it in that channel. The next person picked it up and did exactly the same thing. You can still walk into one of these rooms today. At Housesteads, a Roman fort on Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain, built under Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, archaeologists found the latrine almost completely intact. It's a square stone room. Benches face each other on two sides. A channel runs down the center, and the engineers rigged a system to divert a nearby stream straight through it, flushing the whole room automatically all day. No plumber, no bucket, just moving water engineered to never stop. This wasn't some improvised camp toilet for soldiers roughing it on the frontier. It was a piece of infrastructure built with the same seriousness as the fort's granary or its barracks. The empire cared enough about this system to design it into the blueprint of a military base at the edge of the known world. We tend to picture military bases as Spartan, bare bones, all function and no comfort. This one, weirdly, had better drainage engineering than plenty of modern buildings, which, honestly, is a strange set of priorities. You're stationed at the literal edge of the empire, guarding against people who genuinely want to kill you, and someone back in Rome still sent an engineer to make sure your bathroom had proper drainage. Here's the thing, nobody tells you. Efficient plumbing and zero privacy came from the exact same decision. One system, two consequences. We like to imagine engineering and social custom as separate departments. Here, they were the same department, run by the same guy. And that split is where this gets genuinely interesting. Theory number one is the boring one, and it's probably at least half true. Privacy costs money, and it costs even more when your city runs on non-stop aqueduct flow instead of pipes with valves. Remember that channel from Housesteads, the one engineered to run day and night under the bench. You can't stop it, damn it, or split it into 20 private streams without redesigning the whole system. A single continuous bench over a single continuous channel is cheap. 20 separate stalls, each needing its own inlet and outlet, is not. Multiply that across every public latrine a growing city needs, and the arithmetic gets brutal fast. Nobody needed a committee to debate it. The pipes decided it for them. We assume any government eventually just does the math and calls it a day. Rome did exactly that, and kept doing it for 400 years straight. Simple, practical, boring. And this tracks with everything else we know about Roman public works. The same empire that built the Colosseum also obsessed over drainage angles and water pressure, because infrastructure at that scale runs on math, not sentiment. A wall between every seat wasn't a moral decision anyone argued about in the Senate. It just never made the budget. You can trace that same instinct across the whole empire. Fix the flow first. Worry about feelings never. Sometimes the boring answer really is most of the explanation, but it isn't all of it. Because if cost were the only reason, we'd expect the design to change the moment someone could afford better. In Rome, it basically never did. So if it wasn't only about money, what was actually going on? We tend to assume ancient people wanted more privacy, the same way we do. The evidence points the other way entirely. Theory number two is where it gets genuinely interesting. In 2024, a team led by archaeologists Gemma Jansen, Ann Koloski-Ostro, and Richard Neudecker finished cataloging every known toilet in the city of Rome. 66 of them, ranging from single holes tucked into the back of a shop to grand multi-seat halls near the Forum. And here's the detail that matters. Not one of the elaborate public multi-seaters, in any neighborhood rich or poor, ever added a partition. Wealth bought you a private toilet at home, if you had the space for it. It never once bought you a walled-off seat in public. Picture the room again. Cold marble under your legs. The murmur of 10 conversations at once, echoing off stone. Someone rinsing a shared sponge in vinegar a few feet away, and torchlight flickering across all of it. That wasn't a design failure people simply tolerated. It was the point. Rome's whole public culture ran on being seen. The baths, the forum, the arena, all built around bodies gathered in the open, doing ordinary things together in full view. Sitting exposed on that bench wasn't humiliation by accident. It was a small daily rehearsal of belonging, performed shoulder to shoulder with people you might never even speak to. This wasn't a design flaw the Romans never got around to fixing. This wasn't a shortage of walls or a failure of imagination. This was citizenship itself, built directly into the architecture, one open bench at a time. Here's one case, a name lost to time, but a moment fully recorded by the philosopher Seneca himself, around 65 AD. A German man captured and enslaved was being held for the beast hunts. Rome's arena games didn't just feature gladiators fighting each other. They fed condemned men to wild animals, alive, for entertainment. And this man was scheduled to go next. Outside, the crowd was already gathering, loud, restless, waiting for the gates to open. His guards allowed him one thing before the show, a trip to the shared latrine, alone, because what could possibly happen in a room built for something so mundane? Seneca wrote that the man took the communal cleaning stick, the same sponge on a pole every prisoner and citizen used to wipe themselves, and pushed it down his own throat. He suffocated himself right there on the same bench where strangers had been sitting and talking an hour earlier. Seneca didn't tell this story to shock people. He told it to prove a point about freedom. He wrote that even the most disgusting object in Rome, something everyone used and nobody wanted to think about twice, was enough to end a life on your own terms instead of someone else's. The guards trusted that room completely, not because they were careless, because it was the one space in the entire empire built with zero expectation of privacy, and therefore, in their minds, zero risk. Nobody watched closely there because there was nothing left to watch that Rome hadn't already normalized. Out of every room in that camp, guarded gates, locked cells, the arena tunnels themselves, the latrine was the one place assumed safe enough to leave a condemned man unsupervised. We'll never know exactly what went through his mind in that final second. We only know exactly what he chose to do with it. What would you have done, alone in that room with a death sentence waiting just outside the door? Think about that room again. The noise, the strangers, the soldier a few feet away. Somewhere in a room exactly like it, a man found the only privacy Rome ever accidentally gave him and used it for the last decision he had left. Let's be honest about something. We're not being coy by admitting uncertainty here. We're being accurate. Nobody in Rome left us a diary entry that says in plain words, "We sit together at the latrine because it makes us feel like citizens." That interpretation comes from archaeologists reading stone benches, seat counts, and water channels, then reasoning backward toward intention. It's a strong theory built on real physical patterns repeated across dozens of cities. But it's still a theory, not a transcript. Nobody asked and nobody wrote it down. And there's a deeper problem too. We like to assume all that engineering meant Romans were healthier for it. The evidence says otherwise. A 2016 study in the journal Parasitology, led by researcher Piers Mitchell, found something Romans could never have known. Rates of parasites like whipworm and roundworm actually rose under Roman rule compared to the period before it. So, which theory is right, the boring one or the interesting one? That doesn't erase the pattern we've been describing. It complicates it. Rome clearly chose openness over walls, again and again, in city after city for centuries. That part is solid. What's less solid is why exactly, and whether it made anyone's life better or worse. Maybe it was pure economics, the way Theory 1 argued. Maybe it was genuine civic identity, the way Theory 2 argued. Maybe, honestly, it was both, tangled together in ways no single Roman could have explained, even if you'd asked them directly. We don't get a clean answer here. We get a repeated choice made by an empire for 400 years, and we're left guessing at exactly why. It's still 80 AD. You're still on that long stone bench near the Colosseum. 10 strangers still sit beside you, shoulder to shoulder. No walls, no doors, no stalls between any of you. The soldier is still watching. The marble is exactly as cold as it was an hour ago. Rome hasn't changed a single thing about this room since you sat down. You finish. You stand. You let the next stranger take your still warm seat, exactly like the person before you did for you. Nobody apologizes for staring. Nobody expects an apology. This is just Tuesday in the middle of the most powerful city on earth, and by tomorrow, you'll be sitting here again, next to different strangers, doing the exact same thing. Now think about this morning. You probably locked a door before you did the same basic thing. Maybe you waited for an empty stall at work rather than take the one right next to someone. That locked door feels ancient, permanent, obvious. It isn't. It's a genuinely recent habit, layered on top of one of the oldest acts a body performs. For most of human history, including 4 centuries of the most advanced empire on Earth, this was communal, ordinary, unremarkable. We added the door. We added the lock. We decided somewhere along the way that this ordinary act deserved to be hidden. Rome never made that decision, not once, not for 400 years. That gap between then and now is smaller than we'd like to admit. We just got very good at forgetting how recent it is. Privacy is the new invention, not the bench. And you? Are we the strange ones now for needing a locked door at all? Let me know.